One thing I really liked about tonight's episode of NXT is the TNA versus NXT stuff is finally starting to feel real. Like, we can all admit the whole TNA championship around Trick Williams' waist has been kind of boring. It hasn't lived up to the hype or the potential it had. But tonight, I kind of felt like, okay, we're actually getting somewhere with this. So Joe Henry had to face Wesley. This is all ahead of their match coming up at Slammiversary, a triple threat with Mike Santana. We're going to address that in a second. So Trick Williams was on commentary, and Wesley vs. Joe Henry had a pretty competitive match, a pretty nice match, but the high rise ended up interfering, almost costing Joe Henry the match, but Mike Santana came out, he managed to equal the odds, and Joe Henry capitalized, picks up the victory over Wesley, and now he, along with Santana, stands tall and stares down Trick Williams. Later during the night, they're interviewed backstage. Joe Henry and Santana admit that they don't like each other, but they both rep TNA, and just for that reason, they're gonna stand by each other. Next week, they're gonna face the High Rise. First of all, I think Wesley being aligned with Trick Williams has made him infinitely better. Like I keep saying every week, Wesley, his heel run has sucked, but now this whole thing with Trick Williams, it's felt like there's character there, there's motivations there, and I really liked it. Now, let's address what I think about the TNA versus NXT stuff. I'm glad stars are finally getting involved and we're actually getting high quality people involved. But let's be honest, they don't compare to Santana or Joe Henry, and feeling these guys actually coming to the show, impacting the show, doing stuff, it feels kind of important. Now I hope they keep building this on TNA and actually makes it feel more important. I just wish the whole thing with NXT versus TNA was just built out more. It didn't feel as impactful as it should have felt. But like I said, Joe Henry and Santana actually teaming up to stand against NXT, it feels really impactful and it feels like, okay, these top superstars actually care. So yeah, I'm excited for the tag team match next week. I'm excited for the match at Slammiversary for the TNA World Championship. But most importantly, I just want to see this build across all shows, because I skipped TNA last week because I really just needed a break from the show. So I'm going to tune in this week and I'm going to hope you're going to follow up on this, because I'm really interested in seeing this develop more. Maybe they can have a tag team match to prepare for the High Rise. That could be cool. And once you come to the realization that Joe Henry's contract ends in TNA this year and he's most likely going to go to NXT, there's kind of a bit of intrigue. Is Joe Henry going to cost Santana the match? Because somehow he's going to have to flip to NXT, right? And that feels like a perfect betrayal of TNA. His storyline's already built in there. So how's that going to play out? I'm genuinely curious for that. I don't know how it's going to work. And once again, the show just keeps building up stuff that I haven't really liked. Luca Crucifino comes out to the ring and says since Stand and Deliver, Tony D'Angelo has been questioning him, questioning his loyalty, and he wants Tony to come out and they just want to talk it out. So Tony D'Angelo does come out. Tony D'Angelo accuses Luca Crucifino of essentially giving Stacks the Heritage Cup on a silver platter, but Luca just says no, he never did anything of that. Then he lists a bunch of potential careers he could have gone into, but he rejected so that he can be loyal to the family. So Stacks makes his way out and thanks Luca for his help last week, but Luca snaps and just tells him to shut the hell up and that this is between him and Tony. Tony starts speaking up and says that this is between the two of them, but Luca punches him in the face. Now Stacks comes into the ring and he's very happy, puts his arm around Luca, but then Luca plays Stacks out too and he says his loyalty is only to himself now. And admittedly, this whole feud has been dog shit, but I'm really invested in this now. Like I said, I think Stacks has really done a great job as a heel with this feud. But also, I'm really liking what we're doing with Luca. He's really starting to stand out on his own. He's starting to build up a character that's very unique to himself and not similar to the rest of the family. But I will still say that we should just let them all go into their own stories, because that's going to benefit them the most. This story does have a bit of a sour taste in everybody's mouth. So if Luca goes on his own, Stacks goes on his own, Tony goes on his own, I think there's a lot more potential for each guy individually, because this feud, just continuing it is not the right decision. So come Great American Bash, we should do a triple threat match, we should end this feud, and then let them all go their own ways, because I think that's just what's best for everyone. This feud, it's not working for anyone. We have another pre-taped Dark State segment where they go about how there's an NXT superstar who's a TNA champ, there's a Noah guy challenging for the NXT championship, and at this point, what are we doing with Dark State? I don't know, I don't care about these pre-taped segments. You can just cut them out from the show and you're really not gonna miss anything. Really, they started off with so much potential, at least to me, and I really bought into them at the start, but now it just feels like there's no direction for them. They don't have any clue what to do with these guys. And especially on NXT right now, we're building a lot of young guys. You can see that with Luca Crucifino, Stacks, Jasper Troy, Inamura, Tavion Heights, and Miles Bourne. Lots of young guys are being built up. And it feels like Dark State was supposed to be some of those guys, but they're just missing the mark now, and I don't know how to fix that. And then also, we have Ren Sinclair telling Tavion Heights that he was so close to beating Javon Evans last week, but she's kinda glad he's around. very selfish of her, but she admits that. Tavion blames the face mask for why I lost, which fair, that face mask was awful. And then he basically wants to face Charlie Dempsey, that if he can beat Charlie Dempsey, he gets to leave. But Charlie Dempsey, he doesn't really like that idea. But Charlie Dempsey eventually does agree to this decision, and once he does, he basically tells Tavion that this is the last time they will have this conversation, and you'll have to stay in the NQCC for much longer. Let's go through a few matches we had on the card now. First, it was Miles Bourne who defeated Lexis King. A pretty solid match, a great start for Miles Bourne's singles run, singles run outside of the NQCC. I really like Miles Bourne, I think he has a lot of potential. This was a really nice match overall. I'm not sure what we're doing with Lexis King. Okay, let me be honest with Lexis King here. I don't see where he fits in the larger picture, guys. I kind of don't see him ever going to the main roster. I don't see him fitting there. I don't see what role he'd have. I don't even see him potentially being in the mid card. Like, even the mid card in the main roster is very deep. Miles Bourne I can see fitting in there. Lexis King, I don't know. I really like the guy. I hope he succeeds, but I don't know what he needs to do to get to that next level. And then following that, we had a women's match, Lainey Reed versus Thea Hill, a pretty solid match. Man, it sucks that Thea Hill always eats losses. I really like Thea Hill, and I'm glad Lainey Reed picks up a victory. She had a very strong debut. She's been very interesting, and I like that we're giving her momentum. I also kind of wish Thea Hill got a push or gets to do something different. Like what happened with that little Jada Parker feud. I felt like that didn't end completely. So hopefully you can revisit that. But as far as Lainey Reed goes, I really like her. I think she has a lot of potential. I want to see more of her. Backstage in Ava's office, Ethan Page, with the entire Vanity Project behind him, is talking to Ricky Sainz, and they're kind of having a squabble. Ricky Sainz wants a match for his championship, his former championship, and Ethan Page doesn't want to do it. Ethan Page says that it's only going to happen on his terms. Now, Ricky Sainz offers that he wants to go through a gauntlet match with the entirety of Vanity Project, and if he wins, he gets to choose on which terms he gets that championship match. Ava really likes that idea and she agrees to it. Now, for those of you who don't know, I assume most of you don't watch Evolve. Recently, the Vanity Project already had their gauntlet match and it was really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. So I want to see this again. I don't mind, especially since it's going to be with Ricky Sainz, and this time you're actually going to have the Evolve champion in that match. I think there's a lot of potential there. I'm excited for this match next week. You know, next week's starting to kind of look like a really great card. And talking about next week looking like a really great card, let's address the whole tag team match that just happened. So Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley team up against Solruka, and Zarya, or Zaruka. Who cares? I probably pronounced that wrong. Now, this was a really great match, probably match of the night for me. I really love both these teams. And again, the culling, at least when it comes to Izzy Dame and Tatum Paxley, are so entertaining right now. And Solruka and Zarya are my favorite tag team in wrestling right now. So this was a really entertaining match for me. Now, Tatum Paxley eventually pushed Izzy Dame out of the way, causing Zarya to spear Solruka, word salad. And this allowed Izzy Dame to pin Solruka and get her team the victory. Now, we head backstage a bit later. Shawn Spears congratulates Tatum and says she finally feels like a part of the family. And then Ava comes up and tells Izzy that since she pinned Sol, she'll get a shot at the NXT Women's North American Championship at the Great American Bash. But that's when Hank and Tank interrupt, accusing the culling of being the ones to attack them last week. I didn't address that last week because I thought it was just common knowledge. Now both teams start arguing when Tatum steps up and says her friends would never attack someone like that, and then sets up a match for the culling to have a championship match for the tag team titles next week. And what I'm really liking about this is how Tatum Paxley is such a focal point of his team. Like, she's helping Izzy Dame get a championship shot. She indirectly got the culling a tag team championship shot. All of this feels like a really entertaining story, and it's kind of weird because the culling, like a month ago, while I liked them, they honestly did really kind of suck. Nobody cared about them, and now it feels like all of a sudden they're all very entertaining. And you know what? I kind of wouldn't mind if Izzy Dame won the NXT Women's North American Championship. I think her progression over the last 3 months alone has been insane, and she's really entertaining. So putting that North American Championship on her feels like a very good idea, and then you can potentially do a story where she used Tatum only for that championship shot, and then Tatum maybe gets her revenge and wins that championship back. I know people would like to see that. So yeah, I'm really liking what's going on with everything relating to the culling. Like, their stories are really low-key so interesting. Then the main event was Yoshiki Inamura versus Jasper Troy. The winner goes on to face Obafemi at the Great American Bash. And you know what I've realized? I'm a total simp for Jasper Troy. You all know how Kalani Jordan is my ride or die, at least in the women's division. I think Jasper Troy is my ride or die in the men's division. I think this guy has so much potential. I was always simping over Femi before, but now Jasper Troy's completely won me over. I just like this guy, man. He's just so cool. Now he loses, so I don't know why I'm hyping him up so much. But yeah, he loses the match. Yoshihiko Inamura is going to face Obafemi at the Great American Bash. A match I'm really excited for. I know we're absolutely not done with Jasper Troy versus Obafemi. There's still a lot to tell there. But first, we are going to have to head to Jasper Troy versus Javon Evans. And I feel like a good in-between feud for Obafemi is Yoshihiko Inamura. Now, unlike a lot of people, I don't see exactly what everyone else sees in Yoshihiko Inamura. He kinda... I'm invested in his story. Don't get me wrong, I feel like we're telling an interesting story with him. I'm just not invested in his character yet. I feel like I haven't connected with him the same way lots of other people have. And that's fine, right? I don't have to connect with everybody that you necessarily connect with. I'm just trying to see what everyone else is seeing, and I'm not there yet. And when it comes to Javon Evans versus Jasper Troy, that's going to be absolutely match of the night. It's going to steal the show at the Great American Bash. I can guarantee you that. Now, Jordynne Grace comes to the ring and she basically talks about how she has to become vulnerable to win the NXT Women's Championship. This led to Fatal Influence coming out, and they have this whole shebang until Blake Monroe comes and the whole brawl starts. Eventually, Fatal Influence end up outside of the ring. Ava comes out and announces at the Great American Bash we're gonna have Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace versus Fatal Influence. I didn't really like the way the show ended. I feel like the better way to end the show would have been with that match. And as cool as this was, I just felt like it was a bit messy for whatever reason. Like, it didn't feel like a solid, good end to the show for me. And that's kind of the only down thing about this. But overall, I really liked it. But I don't really like how we're seemingly having Blake Monroe and Jordynne Grace team up. They did the very same thing with Julia and Stephanie Vaquer debuting as basically two people who are friends. I don't want to see the same with Blake Monroe versus Jordynne Grace, or at least I don't want to see them just be friendly. I feel like we've done that, we've seen that. I want to see them each do their own thing. But overall, I think the way they've built these feuds with Fatal Influence has been pretty solid. I'm just going to give it a moment to see where it goes, but so far it's not necessarily something I'm too into. Now, if I had to give tonight's show a rating, I would say it's a solid 10 out of 10. I sat down, I was actually invested in every single match. It felt like we were really trying to build a lot of new people up, which I really liked, we really need on NXT. I think it was overall a really solid show, really good, especially following last week. NXT just been on an absolute tear recently, hasn't it? Just banger after banger of shows. And especially with LFG winners coming up in probably like 7-8 more weeks, the roster is just going to keep getting better. So I'm genuinely hyped to see what's happening with NXT over the next few months. Like, NXT is on fire, guys. So yeah, if you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe. I cover NXT and TNA weekly. Well, I did take a break from TNA last week, but the shows haven't been that good to me personally, and I really just needed a break. It's going to be back to usual this week. So yeah, leave a like, subscribe if you're interested in seeing TNA and NXT weekly. That's what I offer you. Goodbye, everyone.